Pass.
Death, small chance of success. What are we waiting for?
Fellas, I feel this is my lucky day.
Brilliant.
I just love how at the start they've now got Jay saying pass before I said the actual intro. Yeah, no, I said before the feeds, like, I'm pretty sure the four I put on the thumbnail are not going to come up. I just Googled super performances and picked the first image that I could see, and that was it. But hey, welcome to another episode of Rankum. We're here to talk about super movie performances that should have been Oscar nominated. I will get off here, like, even though the Oscars don't typically go for the animated, I'd get allowed voiceovers animated as long as it's a superhero movie and as long as they appeared in the movie, and it doesn't have to be superhero performances. It can be like any side character as well, as long as they're in the movie. But
for sure,
I've got a great bunch of people here. Nick, we've got you here. How are you going?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm ready to do this. This was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be because there's so many, but we'll see how it goes.
Also here we've got Dylan. Dylan, how's it going?
It's going well. I think it's been a little while since I've been on a Rankum. I always love doing it, especially this topic because it combines my two loves, superhero movies and Oscars. So I'm like, this is right in my wheelhouse. I'm excited.
And last but not least, he jumped in last minute. We've got Jay Burns. Jay, how's it going?
I literally thought he was going to say comic book movies and movies. So like I'm fine. I'm the one a little out of my element here because I think every nominee that I put forward or every person that I put forward should have been nominated, but I don't know who those people are yet because I just got in this chat like 5 minutes ago. So we're flying by the seat of our pants here.
But with that being said, how Rankin works is we're going to nominate a performance that we think should have been Oscar nominated, and everyone else will say yes or no to it. And yeah, because it's for people though, like it's going to come down to the other three on the panel, just so we don't end up with random ties. So yeah, but Nick, I'm going to go to you first. What's the first performance you're going to bring up?
I got to start out hot, and I'm going with the OG, Christopher Reeve, for a Superman movie. I just think his performance, going back and forth between Clark Kent and Kal-El, is just so masterful. You can really buy, like, everybody makes fun of the whole glasses as a secret identity thing, but he really made you believe that was a possibility with just the way his mannerisms worked when he's Clark Kent, and just the scene in particular when he's toying with the idea of telling Lois who he is, and you can see him on screen transform. I think it's Oscar worthy, so that's my first pick.
Dylan, what do you say about Christopher Reeve from Superman the movie?
Yeah, I mean, this is a great performance, especially because you got to think like this is one of the first mainstream superhero films that like a lot of the success basically was riding on who was Superman and how successful, because if he's not good in the movie's probably not as successful, and you don't have sequels, you don't have inspirations to adapt other superhero movies. And granted, some of the sequels aren't good, but like I think a lot of the success on the superhero genre as a whole lies and rests kind of on his shoulders and his performance. When I was like putting together my list, I was like looking at like the actual Oscars and like who was nominated to see like, would I put them in that 5? And for 1979, which would have been for the movies of 1978, I mean, you have some good performances in there, but all the ones I'm seeing, like, I think he could definitely crack into that top 5, especially because he's not even the top billed actor in that movie. He's like third billed after Marlon Brando and Gene Hackman, which is wild because he's the titular character. But I think they would still campaign him in lead, not supporting, obviously. And I think of the 5 that I'm looking at for like lead actor that year, my preference would probably be Robert De Niro in The Deer Hunter, but next to him, like that is one of my favorite performances of that year. And I think it's just such an iconic and amazing performance. And I think for our list, it would be great to like span a large breadth of time. So I think for a classic performance in a classic movie and being so good for all the reasons Nick said, I think for sure it's a yes for me.
Jay, what do you say about Christopher Reeve from Superman the movie?
Sorry, I had to throw on some glasses. I felt really awkward being the only person here without them on. That being said, I don't much care for any of these fucking movies. The Superman movies from the 70s and 80s are corny as fuck. There could have been an easy 45 minutes cut out of the original cut of Superman the movie, the motion picture, and it would have been better. Clark Kent with the glasses, funnily enough, admits a low level of hypnosis in the comics, and that's how he nobody notices that it's Clark / Cal in the fucking glasses. And just based on the amount of cocaine that was done between the first and third movie, I'll say yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I like Superman the movie. I do think it's good, and I do think Christopher Reeve's performance is good in it. Yeah, so I'm definitely going to say yes. Whether or not it ends up high on my list, I don't know, but it's still going to make this.
I would get fucking crucified if I said no to that.
But Dylan, what is the next one you're going to bring up?
It's tough because like there's so many eras and so many types of performances, supporting leads. I'm gonna go for just my favorite performance in a superhero movie, period. And you know, it was a pretty stacked year, 2019 or 2017. Sorry, 2017. But I got to go Hugh Jackman for Logan. I feel like that's another one of those like heavy hitting, like kind of obvious picks. But I think in this first wave, like we can kind of go for the heavy hitting, obvious ones because they are that good. And you know, that was a great year. That was the same year actually that I keep getting 2017 and 2019 mixed up. I was gonna say that's the year Joaquin Phoenix won for another comic book performance. That is not true. I'm getting my 7s and 9s mixed up. But great performance. I think he is showing such a great arc for that character over so many films. But this is really kind of like the culmination. That's where he gets most dramatic acting. And performances. The most dramatic stuff you see is in that movie, and I think he is a large part of the reason why that movie is so emotional for so many people and so amazing for so many people. And I think that's actually one that I legitimately think they could have nominated. Like, I think that movie itself was taken much more seriously. Whereas, like, I'm not going to bring up a ton of, like, MCU film performances only because, like, I'm thinking realistically, like, the Oscars, I think Logan was on their radar. I think it was nominated for adapted screenplay or it was close to it. So, like, I think this is obvious. This is definitely one that could have certainly made it in. Had it gotten more campaigning, and I just love the performance so much. So Hugh Jackman for Logan specifically is my pick.
Jay, what do you say about Hugh Jackman as Logan?
He's a dick for killing Professor X. Spoilers for a 6-year-old movie. No, this is a fucking given. This is another one of those. There's no way that this isn't going to make the list, especially in Logan. So yeah, this is a yes for me. This is the most yeses right off the bat that any fucking Rankum has ever gotten from me. So that's a fucking record right there.
Look, I legitimately think Hugh Jackman is definitely would have been the 6 on that thing. I definitely think he would have been, but he had to have been somewhat close to getting in there. Because Hugh Jackman as Logan is just great, and it really does show the growth of his character. So I'm going to say yes for Hugh Jackman. Nick, what do you say about Hugh Jackman as Logan?
I mean, yeah, it is a gimme. Was number one on my personal list, so I'd be kind of a hypocrite if I said that he didn't deserve it. So absolutely, go with Logan.
He's my number one on my list, but then chose Superman first. Weird.
But Jay, we're going to go to you. What is the first one you're going to bring up?
I'm going to bring up Scott Adsit as Baymax in Big Hero 6, as a matter of fact. I know it seems really weird. Like, Big Hero 6 is one of those movies that, like, a lot of people in the community love, and I know a lot of people out there love it, but I don't think enough people actually take into consideration, like, the calmness that Scott Adsit had to bring to a character, and that not only helps, like, not only helps Hiro, but like is created by Tadashi to become essentially that stand-in, and even being monotonous for the most part, a very monotone character, gives you this just air of tranquility and calmness and makes you fall in love with the character that just is activated by Al. Like he's got some comedic moments. He's got some really heartbreaking moments. Like when he like launches Hero back with the chip in the fist at the end of the movie, you're just like, oh my God, break my heart, you little tiny robot asshole. But yeah, Scott Adsit in Big Hero 6. Scott Adsit as Baymax specifically in Big Hero 6.
Yeah, this is definitely an interesting one because I mean I do really like Big Hero 6. I do think it's a good movie. I'm actually going to give it a slight yes, and see what happens here because I think the way that you sold it, Jay, I think it definitely works. Like it's definitely not a lot to. It definitely takes a lot, especially in animation, to be able to sort of be calm and all this sort of crazy over the top acting is happening. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a like yes, see what happens. Nick, what do you say about Scott Adsit as Baymax?
I mean, well, for me, I do not like this movie. I wasn't particularly impressed with a lot of it. That said, it is kind of sold on his performance. But I don't know if it's necessarily enough for an Oscar push, so it's going to be a no for me on that one.
Dylan, it falls on you. What do you say about Scott Adsit as Baymax?
I hate to be that tiebreaker because there's a lot of pressure, but I do agree. Everything Jay said is great, and it really emphasized, like you said, Malcolm, like to me, like I hadn't thought about a lot of the points on why that is like an award-worthy performance, and it is such a good performance, and you know, it takes a lot to be restrained and to not be flashy with a voice performance. It is very monotonous, but like that is the part of it that makes it so kind of endearing and lovable, and I love that. For me personally, I have other voice acting performances on my list that are so many great ones that it's hard to like say like this is probably the best or one of the best. I didn't even thought of this one, but it is a great choice. But I just think there are other ones for me that are a little stronger. Also just looking at that year, I mean that's the year you have J.K. Simmons winning for Whiplash, assuming he would be in the supporting
about the rest of those.
Right, but I mean, should have been nominated for the Oscar is the prompt, and I just want to make sure, like, who would I take out? And I probably would say it's a better performance than like Robert Duvall's in The Judge. Like, no one really talks about that performance nowadays.
I love that movie though.
Yeah, I do too. But yeah, like that's like a heavy hitting. There are a lot of great actors in that category that I don't know if like this one for me is Oscar worthy, but like I still really love the performance. But I am gonna give it a slight no just because there are other voice performances that I'm a little fonder of. But great pick, and I love that we brought it up because it's a great performance.
Yeah. So unfortunately, Scott Adsit doesn't make this list.
It's a tie. That's legit. That's legit a tie. You said yes. I said yes. They said no. That's a tie.
Does anybody have a coin?
Yes,
chat though.
But I also said it's going to come down to the other three people on the panel.
I'm one of those three people. So were you on this one? That world makes no sense. It's arbitrary.
Anyway, moving on to me.
That would be a dick out of spite.
I might test that theory actually. So yeah. I'm going to bring up Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man specifically from Avengers Endgame, and because like I think his performance in that movie is just good. Like, and well, a lot of it, and I definitely, especially when it comes to his whole like the end battle, especially when he's facing Thanos, is like, and his death scene, I think is all done perfectly. But I think the way he was kind of set up from the start and all that, just sort of being this sort of super that's kind of been through a lot and just not started off not willing to want to help them go back in time and save the world and all that takes a lot. And I think his performance is just great. And I think and well, yes, like this is one of those ones that if he was nominated, like the Oscars do the whole thing is like, oh yeah, it's going to be over all his performances, over all that. But I think his performance in Avengers Endgame alone is good enough. I do think it should have been nominated. But Nick, what do you say about Robert Downey Jr. for Avengers Endgame?
It's definitely a performance with a lot of layers, especially the ending monologue that he has. So I think he does deserve to be on this list, and probably did deserve a trophy for that one.
And Dylan, what do you say about Robert Downey Jr. for Avengers Endgame?
Yeah, it's interesting because, like you said, it's like this would be a nomination for like his whole career, kind of like how Hugh Jackman's would have been a career nomination. But like this performance is still strong. I actually prefer him in a different movie as Iron Man. But I know we're probably not going to nominate Robert Downey Jr. over and over again. So like this is the chance to put him on the list. And I think for like the career and the long spanning time playing the role and kind of like building the MCU on his back, kind of like Christopher Reeve, it's like you have to give him the credit because he's the reason why I think the MCU is as strong as it is. If he's not a great Iron Man, who's to say? Because the follow-up was Edward Norton in Incredible Hulk, which I'm sure no one's going to bring up. So like really a lot of it rested on his performance on making Iron Man a success to then make everything else a success to build to Avengers and so on and so forth. Like I said, there are one, maybe two other films that I think his performance for me is stronger in than Endgame, also because Endgame has so many other things going on that his performance at times I'm like, oh yeah, and there's Iron Man. And I know he's the lead, but it's like still like there's so many different things going on. My favorite scene of his is actually not even the end monologue, but the scene where he meets his dad in the past. I love those moments. I mean, that acting is so good. And then of course when he's dying and all that stuff, spoiler alert. If I spoiled it for you, where have you been? What rock have you been hiding under? But
it's not like we're spoiling Guardians 3 or anything.
and also the big thing to note is that is the year that I thought I was talking about earlier, where Joaquin Phoenix does win for Joker, and I don't know if I've ever said it publicly or anything, but like I am not the biggest fan of that performance, to where like if that is winning the Oscar that year, then like I think this one should definitely be nominated at least. Even though that is a tough year. I mean, that's the year Adam Sandler didn't make it in for Uncut Gems. I honestly would have put him and Robert Downey Jr. in there. This is a really good performance. I would have gone with another one in his filmography, but I think because I don't want to waste another pick saying, oh, I'm going to pick him in this Iron Man movie or this Avengers movie. I'll say yes for this performance as a way of honoring him as a whole. Yep.
I think I know what it is, but yeah, we'll take it for now.
Jay, what do you say about RDJ and Avengers Endgame?
Just because you guys are nominating him as a Lifetime Achievement Award Oscar nominee, I would say no. Like literally that's all you guys have spent time talking about is, oh, if it was over a whole span of his career, you're offering this man a nomination for a Lifetime Achievement Award. Okay, we could get that at any year after this. That would have been a no for me. I like him in this movie. I just don't think that he is the most powerful force in this movie, and he's definitely not one. He's one of the better actors in this movie. He's just not the best actor in this movie, and I wouldn't have nominated him for this one specifically. And that's not out of spite. That's legit. Just
yeah, that's fair. But Robert
the spite thing was a joke, I think.
Yeah,
yeah. But Nick, we go back to you for your next nomination.
Okay, so going to some of my heavy hitters, I'm gonna go with James McAvoy in Split. I just think that for that kind of performance, like I was talking about with Christopher Reeve, you see him change on screen. That same thing happens with James McAvoy when he's having the conversation with the therapist, and you can see his shift from one personality to the next. And I just think it's overall great. When this movie was coming out, I had said this movie lives or dies based on his performance, and he knocked it out of the park. So I think he absolutely deserved the Oscar for that one.
Dylan, what do you say about James McAvoy for Split?
This was my question before we went on the air. If like this one counts, because it's a superhero movie in the way that it's like a sequel to a superhero movie, but it's mostly about a super villain, but it is in a superhero franchise. So does it count?
It is a superhero in the movie.
I will allow it, whether or not,
because this is definitely an Oscar-worthy performance. Like, I'm not even saying nomination, but I think this could like be an Oscar-winning performance. I forget exactly the year it was, but like that is such a good performance that I'm honestly surprised. I think probably the only reason it didn't get nominated is because it came out early in 2016, I believe. So like just so many movies that come out after that, it almost kind of became an afterthought. I think it came out in like February or March. But I mean, yeah, it's like such a good performance. All the layers, playing different characters. It's such a good performance that I think even that's a heavy hitting year too with Casey Affleck and Denzel Washington. But like I think there are performances that I would have subbed out for him as well. And you know, I have so many on my list, but this was one of the ones high on my list if it counted. So I'm going to say yes for this.
Jay, what do you say about James McAvoy for Split?
These aren't superhero movies. James McAvoy does an okay job, but if we're talking the Oscars and we're talking nominations here, then you have to talk the politics of what it takes to even get a nod. Especially in this day and age, in this era, this would never happen. And it's not that he doesn't deserve it. It's just that it would never happen based on just the optics of everything. An individual that doesn't have like BPD or DID playing an individual that does, it seems caricaturish. And that's the reason why I think A, it wouldn't have gotten nominated in the first place. B, I think that's why it didn't get nominated. And C, it's why I have to say no on this one.
Fair.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason I sort of allowed it was because of this discussion, because, like, you do bring up a good point that Split is essentially in a franchise which is about superheroes and all that. So I allowed it to have that discussion. For me personally, like, I am going to say no. And I mean, I do like James McAvoy. As Split, like the whole superhero element that was in Unbreakable is kind of lost in Split, and it's just more of a straight up horror movie than anything. And this, if I remember rightly, I think this performance did show up when we did horror movie performances that should have been nominated. So, but yeah.
Well, I mean, you got to have something that's not a Toni Collette nomination, right?
I mean, there was actually a few like that wasn't Toni Collette. She's actually been in a lot of horror movies. Weirdly enough. But yeah, so unfortunately, James McAvoy from Split doesn't make this list, and we move over to Dylan.
So I'm gonna go throw it back a little bit. Go to one of the earlier superhero movies. I'm going to go with the performance that I think should have been nominated in a year where this actress was nominated, but not for this movie. And I'm going Michelle Pfeiffer for Batman Returns. I think Catwoman is one of those roles where, like, I have 3 actresses written down on my list for, like, Oscar-worthy Catwoman performances. I just think all the Catwomen we've gotten have been really good, but, like, Michelle Pfeiffer is the OG for me, at least. Like, this was my first Catwoman that I saw. Obviously, there are people before her, but you're really like one of the iconic villain performances in superhero movies up until like the MCU started cranking out all these films. Like she was one of the essential villains, especially Batman villains. I mean, we've gotten so many great Batman villain performances, but I still think hers is like, if not Heath Ledger, like hers is the next best, I think, for Batman villain performances for me. And she got nominated that year in lead for a movie called Love Field, which I've never seen, not really heard of. But I think she'd probably go in supporting. And even though I'm head over heels for Marissa Tomei's character and performance in My Cousin Vinny, I still would have nominated Michelle Pfeiffer for supporting for Batman Returns because of the other 4 actresses. None of their performances for me are up to the level of Michelle Pfeiffer's. I really love her performance in this so much, and I would nominate that.
Jay, what do you say about Michelle Pfeiffer for Batman Returns?
Well, yeah, it's because they took all the fucking kink and BDSM out of the character. That's why they can't recreate it. You don't see anybody walking around in a PVC leather outfit with a whip anymore, bro. Like it's nobody's dommy mommy like that. I'd say yes though, because she walks that fine line between wanting to do good but wanting to get revenge in this movie so well. And I don't think that the 90s had a lot of fucking performances where this wouldn't be the case. So this would be that it wouldn't be a case that it should have been nominated, is what I'm saying. So I'm gonna say yes on this one.
Yeah, this is one I didn't initially think of when I was going through sort of lists and stuff. But yeah, I mean, now that you mention it, I mean, I am going to give it a slight yes. Because I do think it's a really good performance, and yeah, and it's what, and as Jay said, like it's really hard to, like especially with the way they did it back then, it's really hard to do it now without some group going, "Oh, you're going to sexualize her all again." It's like, but yeah, so I'm going to give it a slight yes. Nick, what would you have said about Michelle Pfeiffer?
Yeah, I think she's the best performance in this movie by far, and is kind of the only good thing about it, if I'm being honest. So yeah, I said that. So yeah, I think it does deserve just the layers to the character, the difference between Selena Kyle and Catwoman, and the descent into madness that she takes, and plus the dance sequence with her and Bruce, where they both kind of figure each other out, is fantastic. So, or on a performance level for her. So yeah, it does get a slight yes for me on that one.
And I prefer the Ibiza nod, but Nish out here being a real dish about this.
But Jay, what is your next pick?
All right, I'm gonna nominate somebody from a movie that I don't think everybody thoroughly enjoyed, but this man was marked once, and no needle shall ever touch his skin again. We are going Ian McKellen in X-Men: The Last Stand as Magneto. I don't care what you say about this movie. This man never gives a bad performance in anything he does. This man carries this movie, and it was a fucking disgrace that he didn't even get a nomination, as being not only an individual who's trying to go about what he thinks is the best route for mutants, because he's been persecuted and he's been vilified his entire life. He doesn't necessarily even want revenge. He just wants a seat at the fucking table. And if he has to take it by force, he'll take it by force. But you never see him as a malicious individual. I think the coldest thing he does in the movie is when Raven gets hit with the cure and he leaves her behind, but she's no longer a mutant. That's more he's focused and honed in and zoned in on what he wants for that is best for mutants. She's no longer a mutant. And the fact that he can pull off that cold, callous, menacing factor and be an 80-year-old fucking man at the same time. This is one of my favorite performances of Ian McKellen ever, and I love him as Gandalf. Yes, I said Gandalf.
Yeah, I mean, I really do. I think. Jay, did you have a specific movie you're thinking of?
I said Last Stand.
Oh, but I didn't quite get.
No, you're good, buddy. No, you're good.
But yeah, for McKellen, I do like him as Magneto. Like, while I personally do think Fassbender is slightly better as Magneto, I do think Ian McKellen is just up there too. I think for me, it's hard to distinguish between the two because I think they're both really good in their own ways. And I think part of the reason he may have been passed out is like Lord of the Rings did overshadow the X-Men a little bit in this time period as well. So, because Ian McKellen was nominated for playing Gandalf in Fellowship. So, but yeah, but I'm going to say yes. I do think he's really good as Magneto, and I do think he should have been.
Fassbender also built his performance off of what Ian McKellen did. So
I know.
I'm not saying you were attacking or anything. I'm just saying, like, if we're bringing that up, I just want to interject with that real
fast. But Nick, what do you say about Ian McKellen from X-Men?
It's funny. I was gonna put Ian McKellen on my list. He kind of just got eked out to an honorable mention because I was watching the Wolverine for the first time the other day, and just the one line he gives right as soon as that after credits plays with Magneto, Xavier, and Wolverine, it's fantastic. So he's got this character down pat. He completely owns it, and I did think he deserved a nomination. I was actually going to rewatch all of these movies, but I think picking him for The Last Stand is a good choice. So absolutely, he deserves to be on this list.
You can go ahead and skip over X-Men Origins Wolverine. Nobody will fault you for that.
Oh no, sure. I've seen that movie
Half
way
the time.
more than I like to admit.
Dylan, what would you have said about Ian McKellen for X-Men: The Last Stand?
You both said yes, right?
Yes.
Okay, so it wouldn't. I don't have any pressure on me. The problem is I haven't watched these movies enough or recently enough to say like he was better in this movie versus this movie or this movie. But I remember his performance just being very good in general. Even like Jay said, in a bad film, I think sometimes in a bad film, it almost makes your performance better because you stand out more because everything around you is shit. And I don't even remember hating X-Men: Last Stand. I just remember it being the weakest of the trilogy. But like, I remember his performance always shining through for those movies. But I would have said no only because it wasn't one that crossed my mind because I just haven't rewatched those movies enough or as often. But it's a great pick, and I'm happy it's on the list. And I will give it another shot because you've persuaded me, Jay.
Hey.
Yeah.
There's a reason why I'm going up for a debate championship.
Love it.
Like I can sway anybody. I can sell ice to an Eskimo.
Yeah.
Ice to an Inuit. Let's not be haters around here.
But yeah, I'm going to, for my next pick, I'm going to because a lot of our picks are pretty right, so I'm going to put some.
It's true.
That's about white.
But yeah, I'm going to nominate a person of color here, and I'm not going for one of the obvious ones first. I'm going to bring up Shameik Moore for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, because I think out of all the Spider-Man movies we have had, I think Shameik Moore, well, yes, he's not a Peter Parker Spider-Man, it's a different one, but I think his version of Miles, I think, is a really good performance, and I think he managed to capture this whole oh shit, I've just met a Spider-Man from another universe who is dead in mine and all that. But I think he manages to sort of convey this sense of wanting to save the world in this thing, and I think he captures the voice perfectly, and I think it's a really good performance. And so I'm going to go Shameik Moore and see what happens. Nick, what do you say about Shameik Moore from Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse?
It's a good pick for sure. It wouldn't make it on my personal list. I don't think that movie is as good as everybody says it is. It's a good movie, but I don't think it's that great. And I don't even think it's the best Spider-Man movie. So you can kill me in the comments for that one. But yeah,
I'll kill you on screen for that one. The fuck?
Oh my god! I can't believe those words just came out of somebody's mouth.
Dylan, what do you say about Shameik Moore for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse?
I'm on the opposite end. I love this movie so much. It's one of my favorite Spider-Man movies. Maybe my number 2, only because 1 holds like a sentimental piece of my heart. But as for the performance, it's kind of like what I was thinking with Baymax, where there's just so many other voice performances that I like so much that, like, I mean, we're already 5 picks into this list. I just want to save a lot of room for performances that I have, but it's such a good one that you bring up, and I'm almost excited to see him expand on the performance even more, because I feel like with each one, we're going to get even more from his performance, to where this is like still an origin story. It's great, but I think we're going to dig even deeper with this character, and I can't wait to see this, where if we were to do this list 5 years from now, I think he might be a definite yes, but right now, he wasn't one of the first names I put on my list, especially with voice performances. So I'm going to say no, but like, it's a great performance to bring up. And I'm only doing that for my own reasons of having just so many other names above him, but great performance to bring up. I like the pick a lot.
Jay, what would you have said about Shameik Moore?
All right, let's do this one last time. This is bullshit. This actually, like, I don't hate this nomination. There are a ton of great actors in this movie. The behind the scenes for this is just amazing to watch. Just watching everybody be able to perform their lines in the behind the scenes. If you haven't watched it, go watch them on YouTube. They're just fucking delightful. I think this is a bad no from 2 people on this list. 1, because of a hot take, and 2, just for selfish reasons. This is, and that's not a dig at you. That's definitely a dig at you, but that's not a dig at you, Bill. That being said, I definitely would have said yes. This is one of the more powerful performances in the movie, and we're not even halfway through this list yet. And who knows how many yeses or nos you're going to get when it comes to everything else that it is that you have left. Plus, whatever you don't get on there can also be an honorable mention. It sucks that this didn't make the list, because this definitely should have made the list, because he makes this movie. The 30-year-old man pretending to be a 14-year-old boy, like this is an episode of Dawson's Creek, makes this fucking movie.
Yeah, I just love me and Jay are on the same page when it comes to animation, because we both suggest to both the animated
fucking ridiculous, guys.
I'm sorry.
No, you're not. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
No, I am. It's if I had thought of
it was such a good performance, but you didn't make me rip my glasses off.
All right, fair enough.
I almost blinded myself too, because it's bright as shit in my room right now.
Sorry.
But anyway, Nick,
you
what is your next nomination?
Something that I'm sure Jay is going to say no to, but we'll see what happens. I went with Dane DeHaan and Chronicle, baby. I love this movie. I think it's fantastic, and I think his performance as Andrew, is this quiet kid going down this spiral into becoming a supervillain, is fantastic. So, yeah, just the emotion, the range of emotions he goes from, especially being behind the camera and being, awkward, and to actually fully being accepted by society, and then having the fall from grace and just lashing out at the world. I think it's fantastic. So that's my next pick.
Dylan, what do you say about Dane DeHaan from Chronicle?
That's a really good inspired pick. I didn't even think of it because, it's not one of the first superhero movies you think of when you hear superhero movie, but I like the unconventionality of it. I would just say no, only because when I remember and look back on that movie and the things I liked about it, I remember a lot of the stylistic choices that I really liked, and the tone and the darkness of it. The performances aren't always the first thing I think of, to where I even think there was one other performance or two others that I was more drawn to in that movie, but it's a great performance. I just would personally say no. I probably just need to see the movie more and more recently. So I would say no, but it's a great thing to bring up. I love it.
Yeah, Jay, what do you say about Dane DeHaan from Chronicle?
You'd have had a better chance if you'd nominated Michael B. Jordan from Chronicle than you did Dane DeHaan. Dane DeHaan is a very...
Come on, he's not doing half the things that Dane DeHaan's doing in that movie.
Dane DeHaan doesn't do shit in that movie. Dane DeHaan proves the only thing that he can do is get typecast in a movie. In this movie, Dane DeHaan is a terrible fucking actor, and this is the reason why nobody sees him do anything. Honestly, no. I'm not going to attack you personally. I'll attack this movie. This movie's not good. This movie is boring as shit. Stylistically, yeah, there's some cool shit going on there, but when you have shitty writing and you have shitty acting and not a great fucking direction behind it, no, I'm sorry. This is 100% a no, and this is a very easy no.
Yeah, my response on this pick,
don't even care.
Wow. Clean sweep on me.
Look, you may call this a hot take if you want. I think it's a pretty reasonable take. Chronicle is not a good movie. I recently rewatched this for a different show. It was like,
I'm sorry.
What's going on? Yeah, it's just not good. So I tried watching it when it came out. I think I watched a little bit of it. I don't think I ever watched it fully. I watched it fully the second time. I was like, it didn't make me love the movie anymore. So yeah, Chronicle is not going anywhere near this list. Dylan, we go to you for your next pick.
I'm hopefully gonna unite the panel again because we've been a little split on the last few. And it's a name Jay. It's a name Jay just brought up, but for a different film, and it's not as the Human Torch. It is as Killmonger. It is Michael B. Jordan for Black Panther. This is a performance that I legitimately, for a lot of the year, especially when Black Panther was picking up Oscar buzz, I was like, this could actually happen because a Marvel movie hadn't been nominated for Best Picture. So I was like, maybe they'll bring a performance along. I mean, it's getting a lot of nominations, and then it didn't happen. It happened a few years later with Angela Bassett. I wish it had happened for this film too, because I think his performance is so good in it. It's one of the only times where a villain has actually made me, as an audience member, kind of not necessarily agree with his side, but see both sides and understand that there's not just this division line good and evil. There is nuance in a lot of villains, and especially for the MCU, I feel like a lot of the villains in phase 1 and 2 lack a little nuance, and I think for this performance to be as strong as it is in a movie that is probably my favorite ensemble effort in the MCU, in terms of just every performance for me firing on all cylinders. And I guess when you watch it back now, obviously with Chadwick Boseman's passing and stuff, like that performance kind of stands out a lot more now too. But back when I saw it the first time, his performance was the one that like I could not stop thinking about. That was always the one that when people asked me how the movie was, I said Michael B. Jordan's on a whole nother level. It's this coolness, it's this calmness. He's great in the combat stuff, but also being charming but evil all at once. I think this is one of my favorite performances, if not my favorite, in the MCU period. It's definitely my favorite of the MCU films. There might be a few performances in the television shows I like a little bit more, but this one for me is the MCU performance for me. So it has to be the one I nominate. I love it so much. Michael B. Jordan is one of my favorite actors. So, and because Malcolm said, very white list so far. So hoping to diversify it a little bit.
Yeah. Jay, what do you say about the basketballer's turn as Killmonger in Black Panther?
Bury my man's at sea because, like his ancestors, he knew death was better than bondage. You might not agree with everything that Killmonger does, but Killmonger is definitely one of the more agreeable villains within the MCU, and he's one of the more realistic and humanized villains in a movie where people wear suits that if you punch them, they can punch you harder because you punched them. It's very simplistic when you break it down, but there's nothing about this performance that I hate at all. This is 100% a yes for me. I just figured it would go a little bit later, mainly because this seems like a given to me.
Yeah.
So like this is one of those gimme picks. This was either going to be I thought this was either going to be one of the last picks or one of the very first picks, not something that we caught right in the middle. But yeah, no, this is 100% a yes for me because it's the casino scene is better than anything that happens in Chronicle.
Yeah. I mean, I love Angela Bassett and Black Panther Wakanda Forever, but for the first acting nomination in the MCU should have been one of the ones from this one, maybe even this one, because I do love Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger. I think he's great, and so I remember when we were covering when I started covering the Oscars around here, this was one of the performances like, oh yeah, this is probably going to be one of the first acting films that's going to sneak in. This and one of the other performances from the movie that may or may not come up later. But yeah, this is an easy yes for me. Nick, what do you say about Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger?
Justice for Chronicle. Michael B. Jordan was in Chronicle. So
get in the comments.
We're gonna nominate. I'm gonna agree with you guys just based on that. Actually, that's not true. It was a really great performance in Black Panther. If there's any performance in this movie that would get nominated, I think it is this one. So absolutely, 100%. Michael B. Jordan, Killmonger. Yes.
No justice. Wow. No justice, no peace.
But Jay, what is your next nomination?
Fuck, dude, I have one that I think I know is going to get in, and then the one that I want to nominate, and we're at what, number 6, right?
Yeah. Halfway there.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with the one that I want to nominate right now, and it's a man who only trusts his barber. We're going with J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson in the original in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. And hear me out here. I know it seems like a long shot, but this is the best portrayal that he's had since before he turned into an Alex Jones ripoff. Because he is still looking out for Peter Parker. He is a shrewd businessman. He is still smoking, even though his fucking wife doesn't want him to. He only trusts his barber. He comes up with great names. He's comedic relief. And he doesn't give up Spider-Man. The one person that he wants off of the streets the most, because he's a menace. He doesn't give up the photographer. He doesn't give up Peter Parker to the Green Goblin, even though Goblin could beat the shit out of him and murder him. It's a small performance in the film. Don't get me wrong. But my thing about it is even small performances can make great moments in movies, and great moments are what get you nominated, and that's why I'm nominating J.K. Simmons.
I mean, look at Angela Bassett. It's a really good example.
That's 100% fair.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. This is one that I probably wouldn't have thought about for myself. But this is one that I did see come up on a lot of lists when I was doing the preparation for this. And
you guys did prep for this?
Oh, I mean, I only did a little bit of the. Well, I mean, if it comes up, I'll like do it. But it's like, but yeah, I mean, so I'm actually going to say yes to this. Like, it's definitely one like not a lot of people would actually think of, but I think it's a really good performance that I think is worthy. So yeah, Nick, what do you say about J.K. Simmons as J. Jonas Jameson?
Well, much like you, this wasn't one that immediately popped into my head, but as soon as Jay said it, it just made sense. It's just straight up probably the most faithful from page to screen adaptations. So I do think that it's perfect, flawless. I think it's better I think his performance is a little better in the second film, but tomato. So yeah, I'm gonna guess
Lifetime Achievement Award.
Exactly. Except unless we're talking about
Dane Dong.
No Way Home. So,
Dylan, what do you say about J.K. Simmons?
I'm mad about this only because I wanted to be the one to bring it up. It was on my list. It was on my list. It was if I was looking at the performances and I was like, if Michael B. Jordan doesn't make it, I'm gonna be so like. I don't know what I do, so I had to bring that up. But that was literally going to be like the next one I brought up. It is such a good performance. And when I said earlier, Spider-Man in the Spider-Verse is like my second favorite, this is my favorite only because this was like my first superhero movie. And like I was obsessed with this film as a kid, watched it at least 3 times a day. I like it even more than the second one only because I watched it so many times. And this performance is hands down, I think, the best acting in that movie, even if like the other actors are more like sentimental. Maybe
he definitely choose the screen. He definitely choose the scenery.
This is the best performance in a movie where I think all the performances are really good, and I think this is the epitome of what you said earlier, like a supporting performance that doesn't overstay its welcome, but is there long enough to where it makes an impact. And like even looking at the list, like John C. Reilly in Chicago is kind of the same thing. He has one big song that got him the nomination.
He's the best part of. He's the
best part of that, and that's like. He's in the lineup. Ed Harris too in The Hours. He has like one scene. And there are other great heavy hitting performances in that 5 for supporting actor that year, but I still think there would have been room for him, and I would have put him in. Maybe not for winning the whole category, but definitely for a nomination. And I really do think I was so excited when you said that name. So yeah, it's definitely a yes for me.
Also, joke's on you, Garth. You think I have Post-it notes?
It's all right, Dylan. Randy Savage is still on the board. You can nominate him.
Hey, we got more than 3 minutes, so you'll be fine. Don't worry about
it. But yeah, it moves to me. I'm going to sort of follow that up, and I'm going to bring up sticking with Spider-Man for a minute. I'm actually going to bring up Willem Dafoe specifically for Spider-Man No Way Home, because while he was good in the Raimi Spider-Man movies he appeared in, Spider-Man No Way Home was where he took that and then made it more menacing and just sort of just with the small lines like Norman's on sabbatical, honey, and stuff like that. It's just he just brought his A game to be turning as a character he put on the map here, and I think Willem Dafoe was really good in the movie. And so yeah, I'm going to bring up Willem Dafoe for No Way Home. Nick, what do you say about that?
Yeah, you're right. Willem Dafoe just gives his all in this performance, both physically, emotionally. Dude did his own stunts, for Christ's sake. He absolutely deserves to be on this list for just that alone. So yeah, it's a yes for me.
Dylan, what do you say about Willem Dafoe for No Way Home?
It's obviously a great performance. I think people act like it's so much better than his first one, but like I still really like his 2002 performance. It's very hammy, but like I grew up loving it. Maybe that's the nostalgia in me talking, but like I always thought he was a good Green Goblin. I think people had issues with almost the way they dressed him more so than his performance in the original. Because I think he's really good. I mean, he's leaning into a lot of the Raimi-isms of it all. No Way Home is interesting because there's so kind of like what I said with Robert Downey Jr. in Endgame. There's so many other performances in that movie that it really almost feels more like an ensemble effort than like that should be an Oscar-worthy performance in that movie. Because I think everyone's doing really great work in that movie. There's a lot of emotional beats that other actors hit. Willem Dafoe kind of only plays into the villainous stuff, not really a lot of other stuff in that movie. And I'm not saying he's one note, but it's he's doing one thing really well, kind of like J.K. Simmons is in the original, but
like playing a singular note.
I guess so. But yeah, I really do like the performance, but it's not enough for me, and it's so recent too. Like I just don't think it compares to some of the other names that haven't come up yet, and because we have a lot of great villains already on here, and there are other ones to still bring up. I'm gonna say a slight no, even though it's a great performance.
Jay, what do you say about Willem Dafoe for No Way Home?
You know, the one thing they love more than a hero is to see a hero fail, fall, die trying. It's better than anything that he said in the entirety of No Way Home. I'm sorry, I love his performance in No Way Home. Don't get me wrong. I love Willem Dafoe's performance in No Way Home. My thing about it is without O2's Green Goblin performance, without him doing everything he does there, you wouldn't have had this. This is like trying to force cast Willem Dafoe as the Joker. It's just I'm over it. I agree with a lot of what Dylan said about it. To tell you the truth, like this is an ensemble performance. There's nobody in this movie except for maybe JB Smoove and Martin Starr are performing badly, and they're not even performing badly. They're just not in it enough for me. Also, not the person from this movie that I would nominate, not specifically. From No Way Home, not the person that I would nominate as a performance for an Oscar. So for that one, I have to say no. But I do love Green Goblin, especially Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin. You can't go wrong with that, bro. Well, you can because we said no, but
Nick, we go back to you. What is your next nomination?
Okay. Since we're still relatively new here, you guys took out a lot of my heavy hitters, so I'm getting ready for a lot of no here. I went with Eric Bana for the Hulk, baby. This movie's not good, but he is absolutely the best part in it. I do think his performance being understated and meek as Bruce Banner, and then to fully, give into the rage and how he feels about that kind of thing. It's not a great movie. Again, I will repeat that. This movie is terrible, but he is acting his ass off trying to make something work, and I do think that his performance kind of gets lost in Nick Nolte's craziness near the end. So,
Dylan, what do you say about Eric Bana and Hulk?
It feels very hypocritical for me to be wearing a Hulk shirt and having never seen this movie.
You're not missing anything.
But I've never seen this movie, and I'm an Ang Lee fan, so like I want to eventually see it, only to see the fullness as a completionist of the filmography. And I do have a few friends who have like kind of reappraised it over the years, because it is very colorful, I've heard. But like I can't speak on this performance. I've never seen it, but yeah, good.
Jay, what do you say about Eric Bana and Hulk?
You know what the best Eric Bana quote, like line from a movie is? Nothing from The Incredible Hulk. It's, "Hi, Christopher. I'm Nero." I'm sorry, Hulk, because we're talking about fucking Ang Lee's Hulk. Just no. Everything about this is a no. Everything. The dogs, the park, the red guy, the old guy who plays the old guy's dad. No, pass.
I mean, I will say this: Hulk is a better movie than Chronicle. That's not saying much.
I was like, that's not saying a lot.
And yeah, I mean, look. That being said, I do think Eric Bana is good in Hulk, but it's still going to be a no. he should not have been nominated for an Oscar.
That's fair.
That's not.
I didn't
spite,
think
by
he was
the way.
nominated for a Razzie for it. To be fair,
Oh, if anybody deserves it, it's Nick Nolte. But still, either way.
but Dylan, we go back to you.
Yeah. I'm going to throw my hat in the ring for a voice performance, and this is one from a non-comic book movie. This is a original superhero film. My favorite superhero film growing up, The Incredibles, and it is going to be Holly Hunter, because I think of that ensemble, she is the one in my opinion that I think is the most kind of recognizable voice, and that might just be because it is her voice, but like her voice, I can't imagine anyone else playing Mrs. Incredible or Elastigirl. Like, and granted, you could say that about every character, even though they did recast Dash for Incredibles 2, obviously. But like, I think hers,
Puberty's a bitch.
if you remove her voice from that role, I just don't think it has the same magic. That film, especially the first film, deals a lot with more than just the superhero-ness of it all. It's all about, I mean, the second film too, but it's a lot about the relationships as a family. And I think some of her best stuff is in the dramatic scenes that I think if you had played them live action would have been just as impactful. I think she's so good. Her voice is so instantly recognizable. And now whenever I hear her, even in older stuff that she had done, I hear Elastigirl, you know, I hear the mom. So it's one of those performances that I've always loved. Instantly recognizable, great performance, great range, a great Disney performance. So I'm going Holly Hunter in The Incredibles.
Jay, what do you say about Holly Hunter for The Incredibles?
Not who I would have gone with, actually, to tell you the truth. I probably would have gone with Syndrome or Craig T. Nelson as Mr. Incredible. Both of them, sorry, I had to open a jar of pickles for my grandma. Scared the shit out of me. My door just made a noise. I wanted something from The Incredibles to make it. And you're right, because I'll watch The Big Sick and I'll be doing something else, and then I just hear Mrs. Incredible. It's like hearing Kevin Conroy's voice as Batman.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that they did this one thing, and that's what you'll know them for forever. So I will say yes on this one.
Yeah, I mean, if they hadn't have waited too long to do an Incredibles sequel, they wouldn't have had to recast Dash. But yeah, I mean, I do like Holly Hunter as Mrs. Incredible. I'm probably going to give this a slight no though, because I think other people from The Incredible should have been brought up first. Personally, so I'm going to say no. So it's going to fall on Nick. Nick, what do you say about Holly Hunter from The Incredibles?
Yeah, it's interesting. You guys brought up that point about just hearing Ms. Incredible's voice. I'm wondering if that same thing happened while you guys were watching Batman vs Superman.
Absolutely, I almost might have Granny's peach tea.
Yeah.
Anyway,
oh, you did that to her. That's
I do think that for this movie and this performance, I do think that she does actually edge out everybody else that's kind of there, and she does kind of live in the dramatic scenes where we're dealing with the domestic situation of being at home with her kids and really helping them become superheroes as they're trying to rescue Bob at the end. So it gets a slight yes from me, to be honest. So
that Holly Hunter from The Incredibles is going to make the list. Jay, we go back to you.
All right. Also, I just have one quick thing to say to Dylan about what he said. This isn't an original movie. This is the best Fantastic. That was the best Fantastic Four movie we ever got. Okay,
True.
But I'm gonna go with a true original, and I'm going with another comedic performance. We're going with the man who tried to destroy Metrocity and then became its prime defender. I am going to nominate Will Ferrell as Megamind because we get Will Ferrell at his Will Ferrelliest, but he is supported by such a great cast, and the fact that he gets to play the Marlon Brando character, he gets to play the bad guy and ultimately become the good guy. He gets to go through like two different story arcs, because we watch him become the villain and then we watch the villain fall and rise, create a villain that he like was his Frankenstein's monster, and then rise to the occasion and stop him because Metro Man didn't want to do it. He wanted to fuck off and play the ukulele. Like, No, I'm sorry. This movie is hilarious. This movie deserved more fucking sequels. I'm kind of glad that they didn't. Just that way, it didn't go down in quality over time, like Despicable Me and the Minions did, because it got beat out. But Will Ferrell definitely deserves at least the nomination for his performance as Megamind in Megamind.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of Megamind personally. I don't think it's that good of a movie.
Yeah, but you like movie 43.
I mean, I never said no to the performance yet. So, now, because of that, I might just spot. Look, on a rewatch, it might like. I mean, I like it enough. That I would rewatch it again and again. But I think part of that is because of Will Ferrell's performance in the movie. And it's one of the reasons, and I do think Will Ferrell's performance is really good just based because of what he's given to do in the movie. So I'm going to say yes to the performance. See, Nick, you can hate a movie but like the performance. Nick, what is?
Oh, good. That'll help me later on if we get there. But yeah, this was definitely an honorable mention for me. If there was going to be an animated movie that was going to be on my list for this, it was definitely going to be Megamind. All the other ones that we brought up, I haven't liked nearly as much as a lot of other people. But absolutely 100%. Will Ferrell is great in this role. He's just kind of really playing along, and the mispronunciation of words and presentation, it's so good. So yeah, absolutely.
Oh, you're a villain, all right. Just not a super one.
Dylan, what would you say about Will Ferrell and Megamind?
It's another one of those movies that I've only seen once, and it was long ago enough that it's not at the forefront of my mind. I can't pinpoint certain moments, but I do remember liking the performance a lot, especially because we don't have much comedic. Like J.K. Simmons, I think, is the closest thing to a comedic performance we have on this list. So it's also kind of cool to have a little variety in that sense. So I'm fine with it being yes. I would have said no only because it's not like a performance that comes to my mind first, but it's a good performance from what I remember, and I'm happy it's on this list for representation for comedy and animation.
Commemation.
But Will Ferrell from Megamind is going to make.
It's being said in the chat, but I almost brought up. Speaking of J.K. Simmons, J.K. Simmons plays the warden in Megamind.
Yeah.
No, Gav, I said at the start of this that we're not going to go by the strict Oscar rules of it has to be live action.
If we were going to do that, we wouldn't have allowed Split, Garth.
Yeah, but
because it's not a superhero movie.
But I also do agree with Brian that they also should have a category for voice acting. But that being moving on, we've got 3 spots left. So I was going to go one of two ways, but we do have a lot of Marvel on here. We've got probably a handful of DC. I'm going to go for another DC one. And this is another one which, just like J.K. Simmons, it's a very small role, but it's one of those ones that is you can argue is very powerful, and just the way it's portrayed is good. I'm bringing up Michael Caine from Batman Begins, but realistically, any of the movies in the Dark Knight trilogy, I think he's really good in it. Him as Alfred is just one of those ones that that is just a performance which, just regardless of if he's talking to Batman about all them
I can't remember the line, but can't move a log.
Yes, but just him as Alfred, I think, works, and just even with the times there, just in the quiet moments, Even some man wants to set the world on fire or something. Another line, something to that effect.
The Dark Knight.
Yeah, so I think his performance is good, so I'm going to go with that. Nick, what do you say about Michael Caine from Batman Begins?
He's absolutely the best Alfred I think we've gotten on screen.
Second.
But I don't know if there's enough in the performance. No, I love Batman Begins. Let me just start by saying that movie is, I think, perfect. It's one of my absolute favorites. But I don't think he necessarily does enough to warrant. I mean, granted, if there was going to be a performance nominated by the Academy, it would probably have been that one back in 2005. But for me personally, I don't think he necessarily does enough. So it's going to be a slight no from me.
Dylan, what do you say about Michael Caine from the Dark Knight trilogy?
I mean, it's a great casting for that role. I think this is the best of his three performances as Alfred. My only thing is like, and I hate to say it, but like Heath Ledger is so good in that second movie that when I think of the Nolan trilogy as a whole, like that's the performance that I think of. Like the other ones kind of pale in comparison, and they're all good. They're all very good. And I even have one in my honorable mentions that's not Heath Ledger, because Heath Ledger did get nominated to win. But yeah, for some reason I just haven't really that didn't cross my mind, Michael Caine, even though he is great in it. And I do really like him in it, but again, there's just so many other roles and characters and actors, and there's only 3 more spots left. Now this is where we all get like really picky and choosy. So I'm gonna say a slight no, but it is a great performance, and I think he's a great actor. Yeah.
Now we're getting picky and choosy. Now, okay.
Jay, what do you say about Michael Caine?
Nick said yes.
Nick said no.
I said that.
Nick said no. You said no. Oh, it doesn't matter what I say. My no would have been the size of a tangerine. I'm saying no.
That was great.
But yeah,
Great pick though. Like honestly, it's a great pick. Had it come earlier, I think it had a chance of making the list. But because of where we're at on the list, I don't think it had a shot.
No, that's fair. I mean, I did consider it earlier. I was like, no, I'm going to go for this one instead. Nick, what is your next nomination?
Okay. This one, again, we took out a lot of my heavy hitters, so I'm just kind of going off the beaten path here for some of the other ones that are on my list. I'm going to nominate Peter Weller's RoboCop.
Not a superhero movie.
He is a superhero.
Not a superhero movie.
He is 100% a superhero.
No, he's not. He's a cop. Cops can't be superheroes. Sorry.
Ask the
Punisher.
Yeah,
Cops can't be a superhero.
Yeah, this is actually a case I'm going to say no
to
this one. Yeah.
You want me to go for another one? I can go.
Go for another.
Yeah.
Great performance. So like great performance.
Okay.
I will say that. Not a superhero though.
In that case, if I can't have that one, I'm going to go with Mickey Rourke in Sin City. I don't know if that'll count.
That's a superhero movie.
He's a superhero in that movie.
Sin City's a superhero movie.
I will give that one. So yeah, I just think going into the melodrama and a lot of the monologues that he gives, and he talks a lot in his section of that film, and especially the makeup job is fantastic. You really just kind of believe him as this character, especially when you get to the end and he's on the electric chair. So absolutely, Mickey Rourke, Sin City, for Mark.
Dylan, what do you say about Mickey Rourke from Sin City?
I've never seen this one, and I really want to check it out because I like Mickey Rourke a lot. Well, I haven't seen Mickey Rourke in a ton of stuff either, but from what I've seen, he's been fine in. Even Iron Man 2, I don't mind him in. I think he's fine. But the wrestler, he's amazing in. So like, I definitely want to see him in Sin City now. So it's an abstain, not even a no, but yeah.
Jay, what do you say about Mickey Rourke from Sin City?
See, this one's difficult because Sin City crossed my mind, but this was not the performance in Sin City that crossed my mind. And because we are at that time where we get to be a little bit more picky and choosy, I'm gonna say no on this one, unfortunately. I do like it, and I'm not a fan of like the neo-noir style of a lot of movies, but like the 3 directors in this movie 3 directors in this movie, 4 directors in this movie. Here, I'll do the double quotes. 4 directors in this movie. Doesn't not work. It's just this isn't the performance that I would nom from this movie, so I'm going to have to say no on that one.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, I like Mickey Rourke's story in Sin City. I think it's really good.
They do him dirty.
Yeah, they do. But yeah, just because there's a few that aren't on this list, I think should be here. I'm also going to say no. Dylan, what is your next pick?
Ooh, it's back to me already. Okay, I'm gonna go for a very recent one, but it was one that, like, when I saw that movie, I was like, she should be nominated, and it was Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman in the Batman. I know I already put up a Catwoman, but I think they're so different that it's almost like I think we could put 2 of a same role in a list as long as they're different enough. And I think her take is so different. I think her use in the function of the story is so different. She's much more hero than she is villain. And I just love all the mannerisms. She plays it so cool, so calm, and really fits the vibe that Matt Reeves is setting up. And I think so many of those performances are so good in that movie, but a lot of them, are enhanced by the writing or the makeup for some characters or the action in the scenes that they're in. Whereas Zoe Kravitz, I just think her presence as this character, every scene she's in, she elevates. She has great chemistry with Robert Pattinson. Like, I think she nails it across the board, with or without the good writing or good direction around her. I think she is just enough on her own, and she's elevated by all the other stuff around her, which is great. I just think she really is, for me, the most exciting part of that movie and what I'm most looking forward to seeing in other movies. And it's another great person to represent in terms of representing women on this list, color on this list. So I'm really a big champion of her performance. Even though it's recent, I think it's worthy of at least a nomination for me.
Jay, what do you say about Zoe Kravitz?
I got a riddle for you. What's an anagram for on?
No.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Give me a second. I got
it. Not who I would nominate from this movie. Don't get me wrong. I like her. I don't think she plays a great Catwoman. I don't even think she plays a great Selena Kyle. And I love Catwoman and Selena Kyle. I love Zoe Kravitz. No, this is honestly, we've talked about recency bias a little bit. We've never said the actual words recency bias, but we've brought up recent and recency a lot as buzzwords here. But I think for that reason alone, I can't, because she could have had an elevated performance and she kind of fell flat against everybody else she was acting against. And that's why I would have to say no on that one.
Fair.
But it's not a bad pick. Don't get me wrong. But also, we already have a fucking Catwoman on this list. We're not getting 2 Catwomans on this list.
I've got Halle Berry next on my list, so be ready. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I was literally going to make that same.
I'm kidding.
But look, when it comes to the Batman, I like Zoe Kravitz enough, but there's a different performance that I do think. I think there's a few other performances I probably would have nominated over this one for the Batman. So I'm also going to say no. Nick, what would you have said about Zoe Kravitz?
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree. She didn't really leave much of an impression on me. Then again, I wasn't the biggest fan of this movie. Just in case I haven't made so many enemies on one list yet. I absolutely 100% agree with Jay and Malcolm that there are at least two performances that I would nominate before this one. So it's going to be a no for me.
Jay, what is your next nomination?
Okay, so we're still technically in the realm of DC here, right? I have one that I think deserves it just because it shows the brutality of what it means to be a street level individual, whether you want to call them an anti-hero or an enforcer or a flat out villain. I'm going to nominate Jackie Earle Haley as Rorschach from The Watchmen, to tell you the truth. He's the most grounded character in the movie. He's not a likable character whatsoever, but you don't have to have a likable character in order to get a nomination. He gives one of the best performances of an individual who knows that you're not supposed to like him since like before Joffrey did it on Game of Thrones. Like he is that character that you are supposed to hate and that sociopaths tend to fucking gravitate towards, which is in itself probably a knock against it. But I think Jackie Earle Haley as Rorschach does exactly what you need a character to do and embodies the character that they are representing on screen and does not give a bad performance in any portion of the movie that he is in. Jackie Earle Haley, Rorschach, Watchmen.
Yeah. When it comes to Watchmen, I'm not the biggest fan of the movie itself. But that being said, I do really like Jackie Earle Haley's performance as Rorschach in the movie. I'm going to give it a yes. Nick, what do you say about Jackie Earle Haley from Watchmen?
I'm very much on the same wavelength with you, Malcolm. That I do not like this movie, but there was a period of time, particularly when I saw it in theaters, that I did think I liked this movie, and Jackie Earle Haley was a reason why. We have this range of emotions from he used to be a hero to where he realized he saw something horrific and he just kind of realized he had to become more brutal just to serve justice. And the fact that he's like one of the only characters that's talking about doing what's right through a majority of the film, yeah, I think I gotta go with it. So yes, he gets a yes.
Dylan, what do you say about Jackie Earle Haley from Watchmen? Yeah.
So, sorry if I seem checked out there. It's because I haven't seen this movie. This is like one of my big blind spots. I've seen the show, not the movie. And I honestly kind of wanted to like tune it out because I want to watch this with as fresh of an opinion in mind as possible. But I'm excited to watch it now. But I abstain. But
that being said, it still has enough yeses to make your list and be able to have 2 left. And it's up to me. I'm going to try this, see what happens, but I'm bringing up Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, specifically from Deadpool, not X-Men Origins. Oh. But yeah, I mean, well, you can argue that the character Deadpool is basically still Ryan Reynolds as a superhero. He was essentially made for the role, but it was like one of the other things that the Oscars don't generally go to a lot as comedies. And Deadpool is a superhero comedy, and I think Ryan Reynolds really works in both counts for this movie. I think he is great as Deadpool, and I think he probably could have snuck in. But yeah, and I think it's good. Nick, what do you say about Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool?
Another one of my honorable mentions is really just he is this character. He totally owns it. Especially, or even in the X-Men Origins Wolverine, he still owned this character. And I do think for this movie in particular that he does bring in the dramatic beats of having cancer and dealing with that and this and the other. So I do think it gets a slight yes from me.
Could I change your mind?
Dylan, what do you say about Ryan Reynolds from Deadpool?
When I saw this the first time, I love this performance. I love this movie, but I think the more Ryan Reynolds movies have come out and me realizing kind of what you said, Malcolm, that it's kind of just Ryan Reynolds doing Ryan Reynolds. I honestly think if we were talking about like screenplays or talking about the writing of the character, I think it would have been a different story. But the performance for me, it's a little samey to everything else he does. And that's not to say it's bad. He does it really well. That's why he does it for this role. But I just think he's doing Ryan Reynolds as a superhero, which is the point of the movie. But for me, that doesn't make it the best performance for me personally. It might be a hot take, but I will say
no. Jay, what do you say about Ryan Reynolds and Deadpool?
I don't personally see that as a hot take, and here's my thing. Just because you're quippy and you're funny doesn't mean that you automatically deserve an Oscar nomination. Just because you fought to get a movie made doesn't mean you deserve an Oscar nomination. Is the movie good? Yes. Is the performance good? Yes. Is it good enough to garner an Oscar nomination? No, he's just like Dylan said, he might be playing Ryan Reynolds. He's more playing Van Wilder in the first one than he is playing actually Ryan Reynolds. And I like Deadpool. I actually like both of the movies. They're both really funny, but I get it. We've got comedic performances on here that are better on screen and better translated to be worthy of an Oscar nomination. And Ryan Reynolds just ain't that guy, bro. He is not him. I'm sorry. That would have been a no for me.
Right.
Nick, I hope I changed your mind.
I didn't think we'd get back to me before we finished this off. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and nominate Jim Carrey for The Mask. If I'm being honest, I just really like the shift that he does from Stanley Ipkiss being this like sad sack, lowly guy who just always kind of says yes to everything, to this like really manic, crazy cartoon character. If you need somebody to embody a cartoon, you obviously get Jim Carrey. I think he's perfect in the role. So that is my nomination. I'm absolutely sure it will not stick. So we'll see what happens.
Dylan, what do you say about Jim Carrey in The Mask?
It's funny because Jim Carrey is like my favorite actor in terms of like just the range he can do from drama to comedy. I've always said he's my favorite actor. Now, I may need to reassess the more movies I've watched and eras of movies I've watched, but he's always been like my favorite actor. But this one is not one of my favorite performances of his. Even in that year, he does so many things in that like 90s, especially 94, to where I prefer other performances of his. But I really do think, for me, it's a slight no, only because that's not one of my favorite performances of his, even though it is one of my favorite actors. I would say no.
Jay, what do you say about Jim Carrey for The Mask?
We've already got the meek guy who transforms into a superpowered individual on the list. He was the first person that we nominated on the list. We already essentially have a Superman character, and that's essentially what this is. Granted, it's with a mask, and he becomes, a trickster god because it's Loki's mask. But this would have been a no. I like this movie, though. I might like this movie more than Dylan. This movie is a little on the underrated side, if you ask me. I know a lot of people like it, but it is outshined by other performances that he gives in the 90s, but this would have been a no for me. Or this will be a no for me.
Yeah, I mean, I like The Mask and I like Jim Carrey, but we literally said no to Ryan Reynolds and Deadpool for the same reason. It's basically
I think he's got a little bit more range than Ryan, to be honest. But
like a lot of Jim Carrey's comedy performances were a lot of the same kind of like comedy and stuff, like with Reggie voice and that. You could play the audio of Ace Ventura, Dumb and Dumber, and The Mask of Jim Carrey's performances in each. I probably wouldn't be able to pick which one is which, just by the tone of the voice alone. The quotes I probably would be able to pick out. But that being said, Jim Carrey's not going to make this list. Dylan, we go back to you.
Yeah, for the most part, I've been like nominating performances from movies I love, so I'm gonna do the opposite. I'm gonna nominate a performance from a movie I like but don't like love, but I love the performance because it is so balls to the wall, crazy, but kind of understands the vibe of the movie, and he's technically playing two different characters. I'm doing Tom Hardy in Venom: Let There Be Carnage. I'm doing the sequel only because I think that's where we get even more of the actual mocap Venom in conversation in tandem with Tom Hardy, but he's doing the regular Eddie Brock performance, which is not the best performance, but I think it's a real interesting take. But I think what's most impressive is that he's able to basically act with nothing and then record the lines later in a totally different tone of voice as Venom. He does the mocap for Venom as well. In that second movie, we see a lot of separate Eddie and Venom on their own. I kind of like that movie because it's essentially like this buddy comedy more so than it is a superhero movie about these two people in kind of an odd couple relationship, and I think he plays the comedy of that really well. It's a zany out there performance. We have 2 slots left, so I figured I'd bring it up just because I do really get a kick out of it, and I think it is a really underrated, I think, performance, because I think the movies aren't necessarily everyone's favorites. I think the performance, though, should still be heralded, and I know it's maybe not like Oscar worthy, but with the performances I've left, this is the one I wanted to bring up because I think he is doing a lot of impressive stuff that kind of goes unseen. And I think for all the people who are saying Andy Serkis deserves awards for Gollum and for for Caesar in Planet of the Apes, I think this is on par in terms of mocap performances, vocal performances, just putting your body to other limits besides just saying the lines on the page. So it was one of my honorable mentions, but I'm going to bring it up because I think it deserves at least a spotlight to at least try to get a vote or two, but we'll see.
Jay, what do you say about Tom Hardy as Venom?
Don't be a pussy, Eddie. Is a better line than anything that is ever uttered in Venom Let There Be Carnage, and it comes from the first one. If you were going to nominate Tom Hardy and Venom as that for an Oscar performance, honestly, I think it is the alien is the fish out of water trying to be a good guy, not them having this manic relationship with each other. I think that that's okay, but I think that the better storyline is Eddie Brock trying to learn how to live with Venom as the symbiote, and it works better in the first one than it does the second one. Don't get me wrong, I'm one of those people who actually likes Let There Be Carnage.
Yeah, me too.
But I think that I would have gone with the first Venom over the second one, and for that, I can't say yes. For that, I'm out.
Yeah. I haven't seen Let There Be Carnage, so I can only go based on the first one. And I actually liked his performances, Eddie Brock and Venom. I do think it's good. Had you brought it up earlier, I probably would have been akin to say yes to it. But at this point in the game, there's only 2 spots, and there's a couple of performances I think should be here over him. I'm also going to say no. Nick, what do you say about Tom Hardy from Venom?
Very much the same boat as you, Malcolm. I've not seen Let There Be Carnage. I did watch the first Venom a couple months ago just to kind of see. It was better than what I thought it was going to be, but I don't think that Tom Hardy's performance as Eddie Brock really kind of grabbed me as it did for a lot of other people, so it's going to be a no from me.
It's going to go back to Jay. One thing I'll say is if we can try and be a little bit quicker with our nomination process.
We got, me and Malcolm got some shit to do in a half hour.
Oh, cool.
That being said, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up at least one character that I think everybody knows deserves to be on this list. And it's a man who has recently passed away. Everybody loved this man. Everybody knows this man as the voice of this character. And I've already brought up his name. It's Kevin Conroy as Batman in Batman Mask of the Phantasm. If we're going based purely off of voice, this is one of the most recognizable. You might say that the performance isn't great. It's a movie that came out in 1993. Remember all of the 90s movies that weren't great? Remember how he elevated his performance not only as Bruce Wayne, but as Batman in this movie. As an individual who is incredibly stoic throughout it, he's still able to bring forth emotion and bring you to that moment. Kevin Conroy as Batman, Batman Mask of the Phantasm. Also, rip Kevin Conroy.
Funny enough, as soon as he passed away, my mind went to a different person. It wasn't who I thought you were going to bring up initially.
No, I'm not going with Abe Vigoda. Also, rip Abe Vigoda, by the way.
But yeah, I mean, look, I do really like Kevin Conroy's Batman voice. I do think it's good. Had you brought it up earlier, I probably would have said yes. But yeah, but I'm going to give it a slight no. But Nick, what do you say about Kevin Conroy as Batman?
I have yet to watch this movie. I have not. I haven't really seen much of the Batman the Animated Series. That said, I have been watching some of the animated DC films on HBO Max, and the fact that the last 2 that have come out, Legion of Superheroes and the Super Sons, where you have the person playing Batman basically doing a Kevin Conroy impression, I think he does deserve to be on this list. So it's going to be a yes for me.
Dylan, it comes down to you. What do you say about Kevin Conroy's Batman?
I don't want to make Jay's head pop off in anger or frustration, but I've never seen it. It's not a no. because I haven't seen it. But it's one of those things. Also, I'm probably the youngest one on the panel, so like I didn't get to see this when it was in its prime and all that
turned
stuff.
30 this year. You're making me feel old.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But this is inspiring me so much that by the end of this week, I will watch it. And then I will comment on whether it would have been a yes or no on this video. But for now, I abstain. I say no. I don't know. But I can't say yes because I haven't seen it.
Yeah,
But
unfortunately,
R.I.P.
unfortunately, it's not going to make the lists.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Y'all are breaking my fucking heart here. Now everything's a no. Now everything's a no. Malcolm, I'm gonna make this shit run late, bro.
But yeah, it's on to me. I'm going to bring up the one that I thought Joe was going to mention. And it's Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther. This is one that I think I was really surprised didn't manage to get the nomination, because he is like Chadwick Boseman is just really powerful as Black Panther. He's just one of those ones that like when this movie came out is just one of the, just caused the like big ruckus, and I think Chadwick Boseman Black Panther was part of the reason. Like I just think the way he performed and all that, I think is just really good. Nick, what do you say about Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther?
So you're nominating him for Black Panther?
Yeah, specifically for Black Panther.
It's weird. He was on my honorable mentions, but not for this movie. I think he's actually does a better job in Civil War, if I'm being honest. But I do think he deserves it, so it's going to get a slight yes for me.
Dylan, what do you say about Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther?
This is hard because, as I said, like when that came out, Michael B. Jordan was like the performance that was the standout for me. And I don't think it's because Chadwick Boseman is bad in the movie at all. Like I think he's great, but I think he's playing a much more, kind of straight. Not, I don't want to keep saying one note because it's not that. It's very layered, but it's not as flashy of a performance. So you're kind of the anchor of the ship, but I think there's performances around him that are just more, just more memorable to me. Like they're chewing the scenery a bit more, but he's so good in that role, and it feels like a disservice to not have him on this list. The only reason I'm going to say a slight no is only because we already have Michael B. Jordan on there, and I think it's a stronger performance. And I think also in 2018, I think Shameik Moore in Spider-Verse was a stronger performance. And if we already said no to him, I also would say no to Chadwick Boseman. I think that's a stacked year for performances as well with Bradley Cooper and Star is Born. Like a lot of great performances that year. So I'm going to say a slight no, but it's still such an amazing, amazing performance, and I still love it. And rest in peace, Chadwick.
Jay, what do you say about Chadwick Boseman's Black Panther?
Chadwick Boseman is the guy, the rock, that every other performance in this movie is built on. But I think that hinders him a little bit in this because everybody else gets to shine while he is just there.
Yeah.
He does, honestly, in a 2 hour and 15-minute movie, he doesn't do as much as he does in 20 minutes of screen time in Civil War. And for that, I would say no, although I do love the movie. Don't get me wrong. I actually love both of them. I actually really enjoy both of them. But this would have been a no for me. Even earlier in the list, this would have been a no because we have the correct person from this movie in Michael B. Jordan.
But yeah, with that we go over to Nick.
Wow, I didn't think we'd get back to me. We're finishing this either way. So staying in the realm of diversity, and you guys can shoot this down if you want. We'll see what happens. I went with Antonio Banderas for The Mask of Zorro.
Oh,
I really do love this performance. I think that him going from, down on his luck criminal to really learning how to be this gallant and valiant hero and what it means to be this symbol. I just think the performance is really well rounded. He's absolutely perfect in this role. I think it's why they ultimately gave him Puss in Boots, and we all know how good he did with that. So, Antonio Banderas, Mask of Zorro.
Dylan, what do you say about Antonio Banderas from Mask of Zorro?
Yeah, I thought I've seen a lot of stuff, but I haven't seen this one either, so I'm going to say abstain.
Okay.
Jay, what do you say about Antonio Banderas' Mask of Zorro?
I'm not going to abstain from this one, but I will say that this is the wrong nomination because if we were going to nominate anybody from The Mask of Zorro for
I know.
an Oscar, it would be Anthony Hopkins as Don Diego de la Vega.
And I wouldn't have argued with you if that's a nomination, but that's
so. Unfortunately, because you chose the wrong guy,
I got you.
I have to say no. And it's the only reason that you chose Antonio Banderas because his first name is the same as your brother's. Is that what's going on here?
That was yeah.
Your brother's a superhero.
That's absolutely what his big selling point on me when I was making this list. So
yeah, I mean, I like Mask of Zorro. I do have to just lean towards no on this one. But yeah, Dylan, what is your next nomination?
Yep. I'm gonna go with one that is more of an unconventional one. In acting class, I had like this whole lesson on like masked acting and how do you convey emotion when they can't see your face. And one of the examples we watched was Hugo Weaving's in V for Vendetta. So I'm gonna go Hugo Weaving. I think it's a really cool performance because you're getting so much emotion behind a mask. It's not like animation and voiceover because in that you can still have animators express the character's emotions. You know, you're getting Will Ferrell's great Megamind performance, but the animators are animating that face. Here, you're getting a great voice performance, but you can't animate a face. It's all behind a mask, but he's still getting those emotions through. Great chemistry with Natalie Portman, great menacing presence, scary presence, iconic look, but an even more iconic performance. So I would go Hugo Weaving for V for Vendetta.
Jay, what do you say about Hugo Weaving for V for Vendetta?
Voila, in view, a humble vaudevillian veteran cast vicariously as both victim and villain by the vicissitudes of fate. This was one of the first individuals that I ever saw that was quote unquote a hero that had burns on them. Like full body burns. I love V. I love Hugo Weaving. That dude's just got a fucking voice. You could have nominated Megatron for all I give a fuck, and you would have gotten a yes from me. This is 100% a yes. The fact that this man carries this entire movie, they had to rig a speaker system so you could hear him speak behind the mask. A lot of it like was redone in ADR, but the fact that like he does his own stunts behind that, you've got Chad Stahelski in there to help with stunts too, which helped with fucking John Wick. There's so much that goes into this, but his performance as an individual, just uttering a line, governments should be afraid of their people, is just one of them things. You can't kill an idea. The fact that he goes the route of not necessarily torturing, but preparing an individual to go through torture seems really cruel when you look at it, but does the job. And he's not a hero. V is not a hero in this movie. He is an anti-hero 100%. But this performance in this movie from an individual that you never actually get to really, you never get to see their face, does such a great job of conveying conviction and emotion for what it is that they want and their goals that they want to have met. This gets a yes from me. This gets a giant fucking yes from me. I love V from V for Vendetta.
V for Vendetta is a really good movie, and I do think Hugo Weaving is great. It's one of those ones that when I was making this, I never really thought of this as a superhero movie, but no one opposed to it either, so I'm going to say yes to it. But Nick, what do you say about Hugo Weaving?
I can't believe I forgot about this one. I fucking love this movie. It makes me embarrassed to put Eric
This was going to
Bana
be my next one
on this list. So here we go, baby. Hugo Weaving. It's absolutely fantastic. Every single fucking thing he says in this movie is amazing.
It was great.
So it's great.
Jay, what is your next nomination?
You ever been a part of a paramilitary group that goes sideways? You find out your wife's cheating on you, you get shot, you go to hell, and you become a fucking army. You become a soldier in the devil's army. I'm going Michael Jai White in Spawn as Al Simmons. I think a lot of people don't remember Spawn because nobody remembers anything that fucking Todd McFarlane does, with the exception that Todd McFarlane can't draw feet or fucking pecs. But Michael Jai White created a character that has lasted so long that Keith David had to become the voice for it. So if you can only go upwards from your performance, yeah, is the movie corny? Absolutely. But we're talking the 90s. Again, 90s movies were corny as fuck. Look at the entirety of the 90s. None of those movies are fucking honestly great. They're all corny as shit. But if we're talking superhero performances that deserve to be nominated, this man shows a range of emotion that you don't get out of a lot of fucking superheroes. It's not just anger. It's not just benevolence, but you also have him acting off of John Leguizamo, who is just absolutely batshit crazy in this movie. Michael J. White as Spawn is my choice. Al Simmons, Spawn.
Malcolm, you're muted.
Yeah, I was like, Malcolm, you're muted, buddy.
There you go.
Yeah, I actually haven't seen Spawn. It's one that I've kind of wanted to get to, but is one that I keep finding other things to watch when I think about it. I really can't say anything on this. Nick, what do you say about Michael J. White and Spawn?
It's kind of what Jay said about Zorro. I think you chose the wrong performance for this movie. I don't think it's a good performance for sure, and he does kind of really sell it. I just don't think that it's as strong as it could have been. So yeah, I gotta give it a slight no.
Well, you suck.
Haven't seen it.
Oh my god!
I know.
What
sorry,
do you nerds do? You watch the same fucking 5 movies over and over again. You motherfucker.
Anyway,
seriously.
Unfortunately, Michael J. White's not going to make this list.
Whatever Malcolm says, no. I haven't seen whatever Malcolm's about to say. I've probably seen it, but I haven't seen it.
I'm going to bring up. I'm going to bring up Josh Brolin as Thanos in Avengers: Infinity War. Look, you can argue if Thanos was right or wrong until day long. But
no, I'll be right back. I'll be right back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, here you could just audio.
My opinion's not going to change.
But I think what Josh Brolin did with just with his voice, and I believe he also did the mocap on set as well. I think just he managed to do this imposing villain, and like Infinity War was pretty much his movie. I think he did it perfectly. I think he was a really good sort of pick to play Thanos. Ultimately, Nick, what do you say about Josh as Thanos?
It's funny. You did pick the main character of this movie. I just don't think that the performance is as strong as some of the other things in this movie. So again, going to be a slight no from me for Josh Brolin. It's great performance, just not the best one in this movie, I think.
Dylan, what do you say about Josh Brolin from Avengers: Infinity War?
Just to keep it quick, because I know we are on a time crunch, but I would have said no only because I like the performance a lot, but I think a lot of the performance is enhanced by the mocap and the visual effects, and it did get a nomination for visual effects, which I think is like kind of honoring Thanos as a character. Like the visual effects nomination is like the nomination to award that movie and particularly that performance, because it enhanced it. But it's a great performance, but I would say no.
Jay, I don't know if you're near your computer, but what would you have said about Josh Brolin? And I'm assuming he's not there. But with that, Josh Brolin's not going to make this list anyway. We'll see what Jay has to say when he gets back. But Nick, we go to you for your next nomination.
Okay. Didn't think we'd come back here. So now that I have the opportunity,
Set it in the chat on YouTube's.
Oh. Welcome back.
Okay, thank you.
So
Sorry about that, guys.
now that I have the opportunity, fuck it. Anthony Hopkins, Don Diego de la Vega, Mask of Zorro. Let's go.
Haven't seen it, so we'll go to Jay.
Had you said
Jay,
it
what-
earlier, it would have been a yes. Right now, it's a no.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah, I
If you
probably
said it
would
before Hugo Weaving, maybe.
I
That's
probably
fair.
would have
That's fair.
strongly leaned towards no in this as well. Dylan, what's your next nomination?
I mean, I feel like every corner of everything has been touched on, so I'm just going to go with my favorite performance that's left on my list, and it's from the same movie I nominated right at the top. And we already have Ian McKellen, we already have Hugh Jackman, but I'm going Patrick Stewart as Professor X in Logan, just because. Sure, we already have a Logan performance in. Sure, we already have an X-Men character with Ian McKellen in there as well. But like, his performance in this movie is heartbreaking. It's such a contrast from what he did before, but still keeping the heart of the character. And I think, to award Hugh Jackman, I think you could also award Patrick Stewart. I think the two of them together makes a lot of sense to nominate together, which is why I'm okay, because I don't think there's one that stands out over the other. I think they're both giving Oscar-worthy performances, and it's just my favorite performance left on my list that I still have. So Patrick Stewart, Logan.
Jay, what do you say about Patrick Stewart from Logan?
If we didn't only have one left on the list, I would have said yes, but we have one left on the list, and I think that there are better performances that are given throughout the entire spectrum of superhero movies. Don't get me wrong, it's great to watch our heroes fall. To bring back the Gabi quote. Don't get me wrong. I think that there are specifically better options, and there are better performances by Patrick Stewart in an X-Men film than there was in this one, though he gives a heartbreaking performance in this. And for that reason, I would have to say no.
Yeah, I mean, Patrick Stewart was also on my list. Yeah, I really like him as Professor X. And I think it's definitely a really big performance, and I think there's definitely the argument for both of these people to be nominated. I'm going to give it a slight yes, and it's going to come down to Nick.
I can't support this. We already got Logan nominated, or we've got Hugh Jackman representing Logan. Although I do think the performance is fantastic, but I think all the performances in this movie are fantastic. So yeah, it's going to be a slight no.
There goes my nomination for Daphne Kenya. I was going to suggest later. Jay, what is your next nomination?
All right. So this one I've given a lot of thought to. I know some people hate this character, but the simple fact that this is a character that rose so far and fell so hard is one of those things that I honestly think people need to take into consideration. It shows the fact that this man not only is able to roll with the punches, take a couple of jokes, but is also able to go to an emotional place. I'm going with Chris Hemsworth in Avengers Endgame. Honestly, I'm going with Bro Thor, the man who didn't feel like he was worthy until he got a pep talk from his mama, which is something that I don't think a lot of people know, but he loved his mom. And the downturn of what happened to him afterwards, after Infinity War, is one of those things that just breaks my heart. And the fact that when he finds out that he's still worthy and he transforms at the final battle, he doesn't just get the God bod back. He's still a big dude. And I think that it's a cause of celebration for a lot of people who happen to be on the heavier set side. But the fact that even if it is a suit, this man delivered a performance worthy of an Oscar in just the I'm still worthy. The entire exchange that he has with Frigga in Asgard in the past is one of those things that's just absolutely heartbreaking. And everybody's like, oh, hey, he's just a punchline for a joke. Well, I mean, you've obviously never been a bigger person. You don't understand what an actual step that is. And the fact that he didn't get offensive, he didn't get offended, he didn't attack. He was just there and living through it. That's an experience as an individual who is on the heavier set side has had to go through. And the fact that he was able to portray that as an individual who is as fit as he is makes it an Oscar-worthy performance, in my opinion. That's who I'm nominating. I'm nominating Chris Hemsworth in Endgame.
Yeah, as much as I want to throw what Jay said about Patrick Stewart and Logan back at him about there already being one move on the performances of this, I can't say no to this. I agree with everything Jay said about Chris Hemsworth in Avengers Endgame. And it's just and I think it definitely does show that whole trauma aspect really well. So I'm going to give this a yes. Nick, what do you say about Chris Hemsworth from Avengers Endgame?
It's funny because I like his performance in Infinity War better, but you sold the hell out of that, Jay, and I really have I can't discount anything that you said. So it's gonna be a yes for me.
And Dylan, what would you have said about Chris Hemsworth in an Avengers Endgame?
I'm not going to elaborate more because you both have said what I've wanted to say. Jay hitting on the the body image stuff with Thor, and also Nick hitting on the fact that I think his arc in Infinity War for me is just like my favorite Thor arc. I think Infinity War is my favorite Thor film when people ask me, because you got the Loki stuff to the Heimdall stuff, all to the Stormbreaker stuff. It's so good, and then the end. But yeah, Endgame just as good. If anything, this is like, again, kind of like RDJ, kind of like Hugh Jackman. It's like awarding the body of work. And this is a strong performance in a body of work where he's done a great job growing this character. So I'm very comfortable saying yes. It didn't matter what I voted, but I would have voted yes for all the reasons you guys said.
But if that Chris Hemsworth for Endgame does make this list.
I know you popped it on the screen. Garth is correct, though. It does make Thor: The Dark World better.
Yes.
Yeah. I did put that up earlier, but
no, I know. I'm just agreeing with it.
Yeah, I'm not going to waste time doing honorable mentions because we are on a time crunch. We're going straight to ranking these.
We can put them on the video. Comment.
Yeah, or I mean, I do the poll tomorrow, but Nick, if the way we vote is we either put it on whiteboard or just say it, depending on how you feel. But Nick, what do you have for 12?
For 12,
they're also in the private chat if you don't have them all written down.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I would go with Superman, to be honest, as far as 12. So,
Dylan, what do you have for 12?
Christopher Reeve.
I had Will Ferrell.
Jay.
I have Michelle Pfeiffer, but I will actually change it to Christopher Reeve as Superman.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting because I also put Will Ferrell.
Get in the comments!
So
it's going to be Garth. Garth's going to go with Will Ferrell because he loves
Garth,
Superman.
Christopher Reeve or Will Ferrell for 12. Give it a little bit of time, but I will get a real ready to go.
Yeah, he went Will Ferrell.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, he didn't. Takes a while to come up in the StreamYard end, but yeah, Will Ferrell is going to be at 12.
No, I get it, but I'm also on the YouTube, so.
Oh yeah.
I
mean, I know. I saw you. I saw you responding to Garth. So. But
I'm about to get canceled.
But for my 11, I'm going to go Michelle Pfeiffer on this one. Nick,
I just had to go with J.K. Simmons.
Dylan,
only because I love all of these performances. I went Chris Hemsworth.
Jay,
what's the opposite of Christopher Walken? Christopher Reeves.
So we've got a 4-way tie. Michelle Pfeiffer, Christopher Reeves, Chris Hemsworth,
J.K. Simmons.
J.K. Simmons.
Are we just going to revote on those 4 specifically?
I mean, if you want to make it go quicker.
Wait, so we're revoting those 4?
Well, I mean, yeah, whatever way people want to, but I'm sticking with Michelle Pfeiffer anyway.
I changed to Michelle Pfeiffer.
I'm sticking with Hemsworth.
Nick,
I changed to Christopher Reeve.
Michelle Pfeiffer is going to be
cool.
I will not because I also say Liam's Neeson's. So leave me alone, Garth.
Um, but Nick, what do you have for 10? And you can keep going the same thing if it hasn't already been not locked into a spot yet, too. So,
Okay.
Nick,
Christopher Reeve.
Dylan,
I did change mine only because I haven't seen the movie enough to say it's one of my favorites. But Ian McKellen.
Jay.
Superman.
I would have gone Holly Hunter for The Incredibles, but Christopher Reeve as Superman is going to be number 10. Dylan, what do you have for 9?
I'm not going to put one of the ones I haven't seen, so I'll just keep going back and forth. I'm going Chris Hemsworth.
Jay.
Jackie Earl Haley.
Holly Hunter. Nick.
I again said J.K. Simmons.
You know, I'm going to change to what did you say, Jay?
I had Jackie Earl Haley. I was actually going to change to Holly Hunter, so I had it written down before you.
I mean, if you want to change,
yeah, I'll change it to Holly Hunter.
I want it to be. I was going to change to Jackie Earl Haley.
The arbitrary nature of lists like this.
But Dylan, what do you have for 8?
Go back to Ian McKellen here.
Jay.
RDJ.
I'll go Jackie O'Haley. Nick.
I said J.K. Simmons.
I'll switch to RDJ.
Okay.
That's fair.
Jay, what do you have?
Jackie Earl Haley. I think this is a perfect spot for him. 7 is a decent spot for Jackie Earl Haley.
Yeah, Jackie Earl Haley. Nick.
I said J.K. Simmons.
I would have said something that wasn't either of those two. So Jackie Earl Haley's making it 7.
Can you just drop who we have left in the private? Just because I have terrible memory.
I can tell you. I have Hugh Jackman, Ian McKellen, Michael B. Jordan, J.K. Simmons, Hugo Weaving, Chris Hemsworth. Those are the 6 I have.
Yeah.
It's mainly so I can read them because I have terrible memory. That's why I asked you to drop it in the chat.
No, that's fair.
It's nothing against you. I appreciate it. I really do. It's just more along the lines I need to be able to read it so I can be like, oh, these are my choices that I have left instead of being like, oh, no, I think we voted for that one. Appreciate you.
But I'm going to go Chris Hemsworth next.
I also said Chris Hemsworth.
Same.
Oh, Michael B. Jordan.
Chris Hemsworth is going to be 6.
It's a good spot for him, but
Nick, what do you have for us 5?
I went with J.K. Simmons.
Dylan.
I went Ian McKellen again.
Jay.
Michael B. Jordan.
And I'm going to go Ian McKellen.
You whore.
But Dylan, what do you have for 4?
This is where I put J.K. Simmons.
Jay.
Hugo Weaving.
I'm also going to go Hugo Weaving. Nick.
I said J.K. Simmons.
Garth, Hugo Weaving or J.K. Simmons at 4.
I won't be mad at either one of these, like, legit, but still.
I will give him a little bit. Oh, there we are. Hugo, Garth went Hugo.
Garth trusts his barber.
Jay,
Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah, I think I'm actually going to go J.K. Simmons here. Nick,
I said Michael B. Jordan.
I went J.K. Simmons, so we have another tie.
so Gav, J.K. Simmons or Michael B. Jordan?
J.K. Simmons, the man to survive ties, bro.
But if
He says Michael B. Jordan.
all right, good. And
So
so
that means that we've got what, 2 left?
yeah, we've got
So we're voting for a winner.
yeah, so we've got Hugh Jackman and J.K. Simmons left, and we're going straight for number 1.
Yeah, vote for your first place guy.
Nick, what do you have for number 1?
It rhymes with Wolverine, Hugh Jackman.
Dylan,
Fuck it, J.K. Simmons.
Jay,
He showed Deadpool as Wolverine.
yeah, I'm also going to go Hugh Jackman here.
I knew you all would. That's why I was throwing in the bone.
No, it's fair because I almost thought about writing it because I'm like, I could be the odd one out on this
Give
one.
him even more whiplash by throwing him around. Get it?
I will fucking demolish you.
Where's my third?
But
See, we
yeah,
went 2 different ways with that.
but once I finish typing out this banner here,
Oh yeah, Garth had Stanley 2 Chains. Is Abraham Erskine. He had Brian Cox. He had Michael Keaton as
Brian Cox is a good one.
And next to, yeah, he had Michael Keaton in Homecoming and Sam Jackson Unbreakable. Again, Unbreakable. Not a fucking. These movies aren't superhero movies, bro. Fucking stop sucking M. Night Shyamalan's dick.
Superheroes.
I mean, look, Unbreakable, and Glass, I will argue, relatively close to being superhero movies.
They're closer than RoboCop.
Yeah,
I'm very surprised with that.
I mean, out of all the ones Garth mentioned,
I'm not trying to bully you into never appearing on the show again. I just want you to.
No, cool. I trust me. You have not. I love good conversation, hot takes, so it's fine.
yeah. I mean, I will say this is not a jab at Garth. I was surprised you didn't mention Chris Evans, the ones that didn't make our top 12. But quickly, just to go through what made this list: at 12, Red Wolf Phil. At 11, we got Michelle Pfeiffer. At 10, we got Christopher Reeve. At 9, we got Holly Hunter. At 8, we got Robert Downey Jr. At 7, we got Jackie Earle Haley. At 6, we got Chris Hemsworth. At 5, we got Emma Callan. At 4, we got Hugo Weaving. At 3, we got Michael B. Jordan. At 2, we got J.K. Simmons. At 1, we got Hugh Jackman. But Nick, very quickly, where can people find you online?
I'm sorry?
Where can people find you online?
Yeah.
You can find me anywhere. Ironman 1993. That's my YouTube channel, or you can find me basically around the internet doing movie stuff like this. So yeah.
Dylan, very quickly, where can people find you online?
Dill Pickle Movie Network. Lots of podcasts, lots of reviews, lots of cool stuff there. Marvel Trivia featuring some folks here every single month. And yeah, this was a lot of fun. Great panel, great discussions, great disagreements and agreements alike. I loved it. It was fun.
Jay, apart from being in 5 minutes over on Full Metal, where can people find you online?
Oh, well, in 5 minutes, you can find me over on Full Metal. But you can also find me at twitch.tv/Luz Therin, LOZTHERIN. I'm playing through Assassin's Creed, a little bit of Madden, and Hogwarts Legacy right now, as a matter of fact. I am around on other corners of the internet, unless it's Twitter at jburns253 or on TikTok at jburns. Don't follow me. I'm not your friend. I won't talk to you. Yeah.
And yeah, you can find me every Sunday on Rankum. Next week is going to be top 12 Meryl Streep movies.
She's been in 12 movies.
I'm an Oscar
I mean,
nominated.
she's about 17 Oscar nominations, so she must have been at least.
She got 2 for each one.
She could have been a writer.
And you can find me all over the place. You can also find me over in Full Metal in a few minutes. But yeah, until next time, we'll see you. See you next time.
Wash your hands. Fuck off.
Take her away, Ian.
Yeah, take it away, Ernie. It's going to be a